The Austria GP weekend is here, and we can talk about what teams have brought, the small upgrades and revisions teams have made to prepare for the big packages coming in Silverstone. The Red Bull Ring is unique, and teams can bring either medium downforce wings or low downforce wings, so we're going to talk a lot about the aero efficiency kits that teams have brought here. Straight line speed is important here, but you need the downforce because of the high altitude. So we could see teams trialing different wings right before going into qualifying, which starts on Friday because of the sprint weekend. Before getting into the upgrades, wanted to thank you guys for the support. We hit 50,000, which is just an unreal number to even say. This was my end of year goal. We've hit it mid-year, which is insane. But let's keep it going. As always, I'll make a dedicated video to the 50,000 right after this triple header and talk more about it. If you guys are new here, please go ahead and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And let's get started into the rear wings going into the Red Bull Ring. Starting off with the teams that we usually do, Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. Now looking here, the wings don't look too much different to the Spanish Grand Prix. That is because they are not much different. The rear wing on the Red Bull isn't much different to that of Spain. The only thing that's really changed here is that gurney flap coming off of the top, still making it a medium downforce rear wing. Mercedes has the exact same rear wing they've used in Spain, and this has been the same rear wing they've been using for a lot of GPs now. I've looked at it, and I even saw this same style of rear wing in Monaco. So their aero efficiency has gotten a lot better in the car, and they have a lot more confidence within the floor and other pieces of the car to be able to use the same rear wing over and over again. Looking at Ferrari, a lot of people were speculating it's a different rear wing with a bit of a lower downforce spec. From what I've seen, it's the exact same one they had in Spain. They just have a different beam wing set up down towards the bottom. But this is still that medium downforce spec. They went with the medium low downforce in Spain anyways, which gave them top speed. That is something I want to go into. But with McLaren, exact same one they had in Spain as well. All four of these teams have pretty much kept the same rear wing going into the Red Bull Ring because of the altitude as I talked about, so teams will keep still a bit of a higher downforce setup. They're obviously not going to go to the extreme like something like Mexico, but this should help with DRS effectiveness and obviously the start finish line and that huge straight going to turn 3 and right after turn 3 as well. With the 3 DRS zones, you need effective DRS to stay within the next car, but also to make overtakes. Because these are our top 4 teams, and I want to go a bit more in depth just to show you what the differences are between the rear wings. Looking at Red Bull, they were actually in the straight the slowest car in qualifying. It was a toe that really helped out Verstappen, actually ended up getting into that P2 position. But the car itself throughout the race, if it did need to make up some overtakes, it would have been difficult on the car like a Ferrari or a Mercedes. Between the 4 cars, the Ferrari had a 326 kilometers per hour, being the fastest in a straight line, and these are all the same spec of rear wing, so we can make the same analysis. It will be quicker here in Austria because of a bigger straight and more DRS effectiveness, but this is off of Spain. 326 on the Ferrari, 325 on the Mercedes, and both 322 for McLaren and for Red Bull. Now they did have the best tire efficiency if we talk about it for McLaren, maybe because they had a slower speed, but Ferrari was just as good. They had a lower downforce spec wing. It hurt them in turns 14, but that might hurt them a little bit in sector 2 considering what they're running. But sector 1 should be very strong for both Ferrari and Mercedes, and maybe the McLaren and Red Bull can catch up in sector 2 and 3. That's important to note for the rear wings that are coming into the Red Bull Ring. Now we can go ahead and look at the next 4 teams. We have Aston Martin, Alpine, Williams, and RB. Looking at Aston Martin, they do have a new rear wing here. It's not going to light the world on fire, but it is a difference, and we're going to have to see how this goes. They've had a lot of tire problems, specifically in tire stress in the rear. So bringing a lower downforce rear wing when Barcelona wasn't the greatest track, it's going to be hot again. I'm interested to see what they do. They don't have the gurney flap, it's lower downforce. This is your medium to low downforce rear wing. They need the top end speed, so does Alpine. Alpine is also here with a medium to low downforce wing. Williams is actually running a new spec of wing as well. Medium to low downforce is probably part of that small package they were talking about. And RB is running a wing we've seen before. It is medium downforce, and there are a couple of things that I do want to mention about RB as well. Looking at the last 2 rear wings, we got Sauber and Haas. They both have the exact same rear wing from Spain as well, both medium downforce on the Sauber and the Haas. Important things to know before getting into the changes is a team that hasn't made a lot of changes, and that is Alpine. Seeing the car here now in the Red Bull Ring, it is the same car they have pretty much used from the beginning of the season, but it's made a lot of progress. Yes, they brought a weight reduction update in China, and they have revised the floor by the slightest bit, but these aren't extreme upgrades. They're only waiting till the end of the summer break to bring big stuff to the car. As for RB, and what I wanted to say was, the team has brought two different specs of cars here. One will be running the non-upgraded car, which was the previous version to Spain. That was about 0.2 off in Canada, and the other will be running their upgraded car they had in Spain. Daniel has been on the side that he wants to run the car that's upgraded, so we'll see if Daniel actually has it. There are no pictures of this yet. Looking at the rear wings that were pictured here, you can see this is the non-revised side pod inlet, so we will get two different specs. Let's see if it does make a difference for the car. They were dramatically behind and they couldn't find the right setup. They said the upgrades were working correctly, so this is going to be interesting to see between the two teams. Will the non-upgraded spec work, or were they just not in the right window for Barcelona? A great picture just to show you what Ferrari did in the last GP in Spain, how they revised the floor, showing you those Venturi tunnels and how they've revised that first part of it. This has said to have given them more downforce, but almost in a bad way because they've now been porpoising in the high speeds. Let's see if this continues because Sector 2 does have a similar high speed section to what Spain has. So we'll see if they've compromised a ride height that's going to work efficiently on a GP like this that will give them better performance. McLaren, from what we've seen, there's very small pictures of the McLaren car as of right now. We do know these are going to be small upgrades, something prepping for a Silverstone package, but the engine cover itself, the cooling on it, because it will be very hot here in Austria, is revised and new on the car. We have yet to see a cooling package like this. Usually they have this weird curved one. This is more similar to the Mercedes. So this is the only thing I could notice on the McLaren. With that also being said, they do have a new beam wing setup. Not as high downforce as they did in Spain. We're going to continue to see this trend. It's not the rear wings that have changed, but the beam wings themselves. And as you look here, you can see only one beam wing and not that upper section which was added in Barcelona. Red Bull also has a very extreme cooling package as well. As you can see, they've opened up everything on the engine cover. Nothing was open for Spain. Let's see how much more they minimize this as they start in practice 1. The rain chances have fallen down, so it's more expected of this GP to have more tire stress, and the cars are going to be overheating a lot more than they usually would on a track like Austria, where it tends to be sometimes colder because of the rain. Now, Aston Martin has gone pretty extreme on this cooling package, I'll tell you that. Looking at the rear part of their car, as I said, they have a new rear wing, which we can see much better here. You can see the kind of revision they've done to the back part of this rear wing to make it lower downforce, but what I wanted to talk about is the cooling part of this car. As you can see, the engine cover pretty much opened all the way. They started the year not even having this part open up until we got to Miami. In Miami, they finally opened this up. As you can see with the shark fin, there's also an opening there for more cooling to come out of the back. Then as we look between the engine cover and the side pod, you can see 3 different areas where the cooling is coming out of. Obviously that rear part of the engine cover, but then they have an opening here and another opening between that side pod and engine cover right down the middle, where Red Bull famously introduced that last year. It was talked about a lot as to how that gave them straight line speed, and a lot of teams weren't using this. Well, it doesn't seem to be adding that much performance. The car is really good in a straight line and braking, but they have had some engine cooling problems that's gone under the radar. It's cost them a lot in the race, so I think this is probably good for them. Here's just a better picture of that engine cooling, at least on the top, those gills. And then another picture to show, Aston Martin has not used a one beam wing setup at all this year. They still have that double beam wing. And as you can see, they've kind of changed the edge of the diffuser. This was introduced also in Spain as well, but this is a great picture showing you how it's going around the diffuser, but as well the shape that's going to be changed inside of the diffuser. All in all, the updates and upgrades that are here are very minimal, as we expected for Austria. They're keys to what's coming to Silverstone. Silverstone is going to be that big playing ground. Teams bring a lot of upgrades there, naturally because a lot of the factories are in Silverstone, so the cost of bringing something to Silverstone isn't really that bad. We saw with McLaren last year, they did have a big Austria package, but then that also came in Silverstone and Hungary. So Silverstone and Hungary are going to be your big upgrade packages, potentially a B-spec from Aston Martin as well, and that's where we'll see visible changes to the cars. As for Mercedes, who has yet to show much, their upgrades have been weird. You obviously haven't seen the last upgrade we saw in Spain, but it made a big difference on the car. So hopefully we continue to see that trend and bigger packages are coming to us next week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe. It'd mean the world, and peace.